Ladies and gents, welcome to Thompsin and Other Disappointments. I'm your host, Thompson. Before I get started, do consider, if you're enjoying the podcast, do consider coming to the live show I'm putting on. That's on Thursday, the 28th of September, so it's not far away. Less than a month. Guys, that's going to be me, Otto English, Ashley Hayden, John Martin. It's going to be a fucking riot. It's going to be good fun. Booze, fun, games, stand-up, a live podcast thing. It's going to be good. I'm psyched. So you can grab tickets to that, or indeed the other live show. You got the 28th of September, or you got the 10th of November. September, November. You take your pick. Both in London. November is going to be me, Dane Baptiste, Marina Purkis, Danny fucking Price, Super Tansky. That's 10th of November. So if you want to get tickets to those, you can go to funk27.co.uk/shows, and there will be a link to that in the description. Natch. I should probably mention also, like, tickets to these shows, they always go out to Patreons first, as do all of the episodes of the podcast. They're always out to Patreons 2 days ahead of everyone else. So if you are feeling the podcast and the punk politics stuff that I put out, maybe check it out. Go on to patreon.com/Aid Thompson with an IN on the end. Right, that is it for the podcast admin. Let's get into this. Cheers. Happy Friday. Let's get into it. Like, it's been a week, hasn't it? It's been a fucking week, guys. There's been no summer recess for the exhausted, sighing masses of Britain, as there, as we spat out our morning gin yesterday at the unsightly visage of the Conservatives' first ever job share arrangement. I don't know if you caught wind of that yesterday, by way of Grant Shapps presumably splitting the role of Secretary of Defence with one Michael Green and Sebastian Fox. So that's inspiring, isn't it? The first ever Tory job share. I mean, between the job share arrangement here and giving a taste of responsibility to the cognitively impaired over there with, Suella and Leanderthal, I suppose it's all quite progressive in a way, isn't it? Well done, Tories. You're all hot. But between that and now the crumbling infrastructure of our schools breaking down a week before they're due to reopen for the autumn term, we are firmly in disappointment territory, aren't we? We are in the realm of batshit political bellendry. But fear not, dear listeners, because here to help me make sense of the senseless is actor, comedian, and thespian appearing at the Park Theatre as of 13th of September in Finsbury Park in It's Coming Straight Towards Us, a tale of two actors stuck in a trailer on the side of an active volcano. Tonight, my guest, please welcome to the show, it's Rufus fucking Hound. Woo! No, not yet. I dabbled with the idea of it because there's oh god, I'm never going to remember her fucking name now. Mooncat. Actually, there we go. I've still got some memory left. There's this lady called Mooncat who's sort of a bit political, a bit Charlie Brooker, and a friend of mine was raving about her, going, "Oh, you would love her. Like she's kind of similar to you, but a little bit this, a little bit that." I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll check her out." And I watched one of her Friday night shows. It sort of clashes with mine a bit, and I loved it. I really loved the format. Like, it was just her jamming, like using a loop machine and some keyboards and stuff, and then she goes into the politics. I was like, maybe is there something I could do around this? But I never really ventured into it. Why do you ask?
It was just when you said we're streaming, almost everyone I know who does streaming is streaming on Twitch.
Interesting. Yeah.
But that said, I have never worked out why you would stream on Twitch, because they make you jump through so many hurdles before you can monetize it. Right. And then once you've monetized it, it seems to largely be in being encouraging parasocial relationships in a way that just seems to be profoundly unhealthy. And all the people I know who made any money at it during lockdown were basically, by the time lockdown ended, they were like, I need to get the fuck out there, man. There are loads of people who think I'm their best friend who, like, literally, the only way I can earn a living is keep going, yeah, no, great. How are you? How's the wife? Please don't contact me. Please don't.
Yeah. I gather that it's isn't it like more of a kind of gaming ecosystem and community and stuff? And yeah, I sort of toyed with the idea of moving over there, but it was like, I'm already sort of, 2 years deep into doing this on YouTube. And most of the intel that I've got from people who do YouTube full time suggests that actually, sure, there's some competitors out there and sure, there's ways of monetizing within those competitors. But YouTube is kind of where it's at, especially if you're doing anything vaguely political. It's like the algorithm's there, the audience is there, the monetization or at least the opportunity to maybe benefit pretty well from monetization is there as well. So I'm just going to stick it out here, I think.
I would.
Yeah. Rufus, welcome. So we've started streaming. I should have said that. We've locked on. Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. Welcome to Thompsin and Other Disappointments. What's up to the Patreon? Just a quick doff of the cap to you guys. Joined tonight by Rufus Hound.
Hello.
Of Celebrity Juice, multiple theatre production, fame, Dancing on Ice. You'll know him. Well, actually, do you know what? I was about to say you'll know him. You'll recognise his face. But one thing, so I told some friends of mine that you were on this week. I was dead excited, obviously, and they were like, Rufus Hound. Where do I know that name? I was like, it's this guy, and they were like, I know that guy. And then there's like a pause, and they were like, where do I know that guy from? Like, it's like you have one of those faces that sort of like the exchange that I had with my mates reminded me of an interview that I read with Bob Hoskins once, where he was like they were asking him about fame, like, how do you handle fame? You're very, very famous, etc. And he was like, yeah, but I've got one of those faces where people recognize me and they give me the old, like, head back all right. They go like, all right, like that. But they think that they recognize him from, like, outside the school gates, or like they got talking to him in a cafe, or so, like, he's just got a friendly face. And I wondered, like, do you get that a lot? You've got quite a friendly face, Rufus.
Only when I'm talking to you, Aid. Although you do remind me of the joke. Do you remember the Geordie comedian Gavin Webster?
No, but I can Google him.
Oh, please do. Stick a picture up of Gavin Webster. He had an amazing joke. He said, my name's Gavin Webster. You may recognise me. I've been on a few panel shows and that. But most people just seem to look at me like, aren't you the bloke who plays snooker with me brother?
Yeah, similar sort of vibe.
You kind of go, oh yeah, something. No, I think it's basically this. I think there was a period of my of being a comedian and doing lots of panel shows and whatnot.
Yeah,
and things like Celebrity Juice. But after doing them for a while and not finding them terribly fulfilling, I increasingly started telling people to naff off. And I'm not entirely sure what your rules are about swearing on this podcast.
You can swear away, mate. Yeah, you're all good.
Well, in that case, I increasingly tell people to fuck off. Basically, few things in television will make you less employable than telling the people who make it to fuck off. Right.
I see. That's good to know.
So having sort of done that, I then said to my agent, well, what do you think I should do now? And she'd just taken on somebody who had come from a theatrical agent more than TV and stuff.
Can I just pause there? Did you literally tell, like, producers and casting agent, like, fuck off? Or did you get in an argument? Or were you like, nah, it's not really my bag and,
No, more the former.
Really? Interesting.
So on Celebrity Juice, basically.
Yeah. Let's peel this onion, Rufus.
Mate, yeah. I'm very happily. I've told the story before. It's not really that big a deal, but
yeah.
Basically, I was on that show for years before it was a hit. I was on it when all of the writing about it was, what is this diabolical piece of garbage? ITV2's trying to inflict on people. It's not funny, it's not good, it's not clever. And why the hell Holly Willoughby and Fern Cotton would want to be on it is a mystery to everyone.
Right.
But the one episode of the first series it did all right happened to be an episode I was on. And in the second series, ITV2 said, well, why don't you try and get Rufus on it like every week? Because that dynamic might be a bit more useful, A. And B, because I was mates with Fern, having worked with her on a couple of other things, including Top of the Pops, like, you know, it will be a nice vibe. You know, Fern's got a mate and he's a bit spikier and whatever. So I did 2 series where basically everyone was still saying, what is this absolute piece of shit? But towards the end of series 3, it actually just started tipping over. Now, a TV producer friend of mine said to me, basically, if you're ever trying to do something genuinely a bit edgy or new, you've got to impress 14-year-old boys. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, that's who you got to go after, right? If you can impress 14-year-old boys, you've just got to stick at it and you'll turn the tide. I was like, I don't know why you would say that. And he said, it's because of this. 14-year-old boys, when they latch onto something, they won't let go of it. They'll say it and say it and say it and say it and quote it and quote it and quote it and quote it.
Right, right.
More than any other demographic.
Okay.
So if it's children and children are saying it, then it's just like that's a kid's thing. But 14-year-old boys, it's just tipping over into the kids that are cool, like the skater kids or the alt kids or the new rappers.
I can see that. Like 14, I always say that 14 is when I started. Like, this sounds really like I'm patting myself on the back, but like 14 is when I think people start thinking like an adult, and it's like, right, you know, you're capable of understanding adult humor. It's when you first get into more grown-up music. It's Sorry, continue. Yeah.
No, but that's exactly it, right? But then when you find something at 14 that you love, it matters, and you become a bit evangelical about it, right? Like, oh, there's this thing, and you know, it's great and it's cool, and it's not like those people like it's ours. We love it. It's you know.
Yeah.
So you just need a bit of a while. But he said the other thing that happens is their parents, to try and still be connected to them, will then go, oh yeah, I'll watch that with you. Oh yeah. He said, so the thing is, you've got to hit teenage boys, but then be good enough that when the adults watch it, they also go, actually, that is quite funny.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not really advocating for this point of view. I'm just saying that is the way that a TV producer described it to me. And I think largely could describe where Celebrity Juice, because to begin with, it had a bigger budget and all sorts of things. And when it didn't get the viewer numbers, they scaled everything right back. But the point was that I did that as a favor to a mate that I was working with at the production company, and we were working on something else. And she said, look, they've actually asked you to come on every week. Would you do that? And I was like, yeah, no reason why not. It's not hard work. I literally turn up, start drinking at 6 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, you sit me in a chair. I make about 10 sort of stupid jokes about people who are famous, and then I go home again. Like, it's lovely. However, after I'd done it for a couple of series, when I was trying to get on other things, I then wasn't getting on them. Right. Because the note coming back was, well, no, but you're the bloke on Celebrity Juice. You know, like that's what you do, really.
Right.
So I went to the producers and said, listen, I think I might just need to not be here, really. Because when I watch it back, I'm literally only on it for about 20 seconds. So I'm not getting any work. You know, because like, if you watch an episode of Celebrity Juice I'm on, it's Keith Lemon being Keith Lemon, talking about Holly's tits for about 3 minutes, Fern's nostrils for about 5 minutes, then introducing the other guests. When it gets to me, it's literally like, all right, Rufus, yeah, all right. So moving on to round one.
Right. And
so
then
the jokes aren't coming my way. Anyway, it all sounds like I haven't really let it go. Maybe that's the case. All I'm really trying to describe is that I wasn't really that bothered about it until I realised that I was actually not getting on things that were going to be more fun. Yeah. Because of being on that. So I said to the producers, look, I've either actually got to be on it so that I can sell what I actually am, you know, and get and actually use some of the the heat that this show's got. Yeah. or I've got to leave and actually do something on my own accord. But I can't just be on it for like 10 seconds every week, just firing in on the buzzer round, and that's as much as I'm on it. Because it just looks like you're cutting around me because I'm shit.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think is there a sort of parallel there with the like the well documented journey that Simon Amstel went on, where he was on Pop World, right? He's kind of there taking the piss out of pop stars. It's fun, like again, that sort of 14-year-old boy market. Everyone's like chuckling, like I can't believe he said that to S Club or whatever. But like internally, he's like hating himself. He's just like, I don't want to fucking do this. Like, A, this is not my vibe. I'm not into any of this music. And B, like, this is a hugely negative. Like, what am I actually doing here? What am I contributing to the discourse? I'm just like ripping into people for the sake. I suppose there is a place for that. You know, you can rip into a few pop stars.
That's what I was going to say. Is I would love to make out I was some sort of angel who said, I just feel the relentless negativity and the degradation of these two brilliantly talented women as you know, just reducing them to body parts. I couldn't possibly be a part of it. That wasn't what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know, I was saying like, I'm happy to be part of the Knockabout fun, but I either need to be on the show or I need to get off the show.
Yeah.
But because it suited them to have me there, basically what happened was I joined it in series 2. It started taking off in series 3.
Yeah.
And by that point, I was already saying to them, I've got no reason to be here. I'm you know, it cuts to me, but I'm never actually on it.
Yeah, you could like pre-record your slot, like literally just sit in there, smile, nod, and then that's it. Like, yeah, cut me in later. It's fine.
Yeah, cut me. You know, I'll come in for one day with 10 shirts, sit there and go, and then you can just, you know, pepper those in, and then I'll be at home if you need me.
Yeah.
So, really, what happened was that over the course of about 4 years or something of making these series. During each series, I was like, "No, look, there's got to be a thing I do, right?" And I used to always talk about shooting stars. That you had George Dawes, you had Vic and Bob, like it was their show. They were doing stuff, but George had George's song.
Yeah.
And then when they had Angelos on it, it was like there was a moment that was like, okay, that's why this guy's here. He's going to do something mad at the top of the show for a minute and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't saying I must have that. It was just, I need a reason to be here that when you look, you go, oh, that's why that guy's on the show.
Yeah.
And for like 4 years, those people were saying to me, yeah, no, we're actually working on a thing and we're going to do a thing and we're going to do a thing. And then the next series came up and I was like, right, great. So what's the thing? And they're like, well, a bit tricky this time round because we just got to get the show off and we've got these guests, we've got to do this other thing, but we're seeding it in. And it went on and on and on and on and on.
Please tell me this is building up to like a Will Ferrell, like, did you tip over the fucking desk and go like, well, fuck you, you know? Did you really?
Basically, a week came at the beginning of a new series where we'd now been enough of a hit that they were going to release a DVD. Right, which was a bit of a coup for a panel show. You know, it wasn't like that. You'd get, you know, Lee Francis, who is Keith Lennon, had made more money than Jesus. You know, more money than Croesus out of Bo Selector, and you know, people had made fortunes out of that market. But as a panel show, there was, you know, they do like a best of or whatever, but they were getting one, and so they put up posters promoting the DVD, and the DVD, the front cover was Keith Lemon and Holly and Fern. And I was like, but I'm on it every week too. Yeah. When you're selling the show, you're now selling it. Like, I've been saying for ages, I don't really feel like I'm included in this. Yeah. And now the front cover of the DVD is not me, and I'm on it every fucking week. Yeah. And then I'm walking around and the only billboards that have ever been put up promoting the show is that picture. Yeah. You're like that scene in, you know, the No Doubt video where they tell her to sort of step forward and then they like push the rest of the band. Oh, right. Yeah. So I was saying that to them as a problem. And then as I was saying it to them, somebody else came into the room and said, oh, have you been told about next week? And I went, what do you mean next week? They went, oh, we're going to be recording slightly later. I was like, all right, why is that? They said, oh, Keith and Holly and Fern are going on with a pre-recording Jonathan Ross to promote the DVD.
Oh, wow.
What, all three of them together? Yeah. What, as the faces of Celebrity Juice? Yeah. Well, why am I not going? Yeah. Oh, well, they've only asked for you. They've only asked for those three. Sure, but when they ask, you go back and say, right, but there's actually four of them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, it's not. Right. So they told me all of this. Yeah. And 3 minutes later, I'm sat in the studio recording the next show. My involvement, let's say, was lackluster.
Did you just sit there with a face like a smacked ass the whole time? You're like...
3 days later, I got a phone call from the producer saying, listen, you've either got to cheer up and just accept what this is.
Yeah.
Or, you need to think seriously about your future on this show. And I said, I don't need to think seriously about the future. I've told you exactly what's what for the last however many years. You have mugged me off left, right, and centre saying, oh, we're going to get round to it. We're going to get round to it. You also asked me to do you a favour that at one point really stuck in my craw, but I did it literally on the premise that you sent people into me to say, as our mate, will you do this? As our mate.
Yeah.
So you basically have mugged me off, strung me along, and now you're telling me I need to look like I cheer up. I'll tell you what, why don't you fuck up?
Oh, man. Said, I'm here for the brutality and the sex.
I will be like that.
Yeah.
And he said, have a couple of days thinking about it. And then he phoned me back and went, actually, no, don't have any days thinking about it. I went, good. Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So after that, my agent said to me, maybe we should have a little rest from television for a while.
Yeah.
And the guy that she'd employed had come from a theatrical background. Yeah. And he basically said, would you like me to have a look at theatre? So at this point, we Scooby-Doo, wibbly wobbly,
yeah,
to the 4-year-old boy in a school play who went, oh yeah, I want to do this. And literally from the age of 4, watching the Muppet Show and school plays and all of that, had only ever wanted to be an actor, ideally a comedy actor, but an actor, yeah, especially a theatre actor. And by the time I was 13, I went to a school that was a fee-paying school, but I ended up on a scholarship there, which was a theatre scholarship.
Yeah.
Because the guy who was the head of theatre had come from a state school, and knowing that my family didn't have any money, yeah, he went, well, actually, this guy's good. We should get him to stay here. So he took me under his wing. He gave me more plays to read and more stuff to read than was just part of the drama GCSE kind of curriculum. He gave me a love of Shakespeare and verse, and also left-wing, lightly comedic plays of the 1960s and 70s.
Right.
So that guy, David Proudlock, basically informed everything I loved about theatre and politics, really.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you've got to stand up for your principles, and that people with money, are going to want to tell you what to do, but there's normally a way around it, and.
Is he still around?
He retired from teaching a few years ago.
Yeah, he sounds like quite an inspiring guy.
Oh, mate, there are so many people who I now bump into who all work in theatre, and it wasn't necessarily from that same school.
Yeah.
Who all, to a man, are like, my God, working under Dave, that really did tell you what was what. He was also very no bullshit, which was joyful, because school has sort of two types of teachers in a way, right? There's like the touchy-feely and the shouting at you ones.
Right, yeah.
Whereas he had this amazing trick of, because it was drama, basically if you were there, if you were doing it, then you really did want to be there.
Mm.
But he was like, there's only one way of doing that. There's only one way of making this good, and that is working incredibly hard. And yes, you should enjoy it, but it's work.
Yeah. So
that ethic of, it's meant to be fun, but it's really hard.
It's such an important thing to sort of to learn, isn't it? And I've talked about this before on different shows about how late to that I was. Like, it wasn't until I was about 32, 31, somewhere around then, that I really started slogging it hard doing stand-up. And stand-up was the first thing where I was just like, I'm just like locked in. I'm just going to keep gigging like 2 a night, 3 a night. every night of the week, 5, 6, 7 times a week, like,
Yeah.
and then you start to feel yourself get better at it, and you're like, oh fuck, this is a superpower, you know? And there's a real, like, it's where everything comes from. It's like a sort of self-esteem drug and I wish I could have developed it. Or I wish I could have had like an inspiring teacher or mentor when I was like, 14 or 17 or whatever.
Yeah.
So that sounds awesome, man, that you had that.
Yeah. But it meant that literally all of my life I'd wanted to be a theatre actor.
Mm.
And then because my family was skin, the idea at 18 of having money to go to drama school, like, no.
Yeah. What did your parents sort of like, were they supportive, or had they previously said, well, you need to go out and get a job, or like?
It wasn't that. It was, my mum and my dad were always very supportive. But at the point, as a family, the money ran out. And then the money really did run out. And then they separated and then divorced. Right. It wasn't really like at that point they went, so what do you want to do? It was like every man for himself, you know?
Yeah.
And I think to a degree, if I'd have gone to them and said, hey, there's this thing I really want to do and I'm passionate about it. But a couple of years ago, I got diagnosed with ADHD. And that is look how many Edinburgh shows of people talking about neurodiversity do we need at the moment? But it made sense of everything in my life. And there's this odd grieving process that comes with that. But looking back, I knew at that point that my entire school career had been full of people going, this kid's great. I mean, if he made any effort, he'd be really great. But
yeah,
just,
Do you know, like, sorry to sort of interject, like first time I actually encountered you, I suppose, like without, I think I was aware of you on Celebrity Juice, but the first time I was aware of you as a comedian, I went to the Comedy Store one time. And I think you were emceeing. Have I got that right?
Certainly, yeah. That's the only thing I'm really good at.
And I can imagine, yeah. And or rather, I remember, from that gig. But as a working comic, do you find like an awful lot of stand-ups are sort of neurodivergent and ADHD drenched? And
Angela Barnes said recently, who herself was diagnosed with ADHD, she said, the moment I actually understood what that thing was, I just looked at all of everyone I knew in comedy and went, oh, to the point where now when I talk to a comedian who I don't think has ADHD, I think to myself, what the fuck are you doing this for?
Yes, yeah. It's like so I'm in a little kind of political comedy satire like chat group. And it's sort of a staple of it's like, we refer to ourselves as like hashtag ADHD kids, because it's like there is an obsessive element to it. There's a need to get to the joke, to the punchline. The joke always comes first.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point now, and this is going to sound horrendously arrogant or weird, but it's gotten to the point now where when I'm interacting socially with people who I don't think are like that, I'm not quite like, what are you doing this for? But I'm a bit like, I feel like I should be more engaged in this conversation. Yeah. I'm, drifting a bit here,
Right. How many people are watching this live stream?
Oh, fucking, I don't know. I haven't. I'm the worst host.
No, don't worry about that. It was just if you had the stats on your screen. I was just going to say, if there aren't very many people watching it, then I'll be really honest. And if we think there aren't going to be necessarily legions of people, I can probably deny this, that it ever happened.
Sure.
Muggles.
Muggles?
Muggles.
What's muggles?
In the world of Harry Potter.
Sorry, excuse me. Carry on.
No, that's all right. In the world of Harry Potter, non-magical people are called muggles. It's what wizards call normal people.
Right. Okay, I get it. I'm not familiar with Harry Potter. I was probably distracted and working on a routine at the time.
Mate, it's not something that in 2023 we're recommending each other get into. It's just if before you knew that the writer was a problem, you may have just known it. But the thing is, it is like wizards and witches. It is like, there's this other power that you tap into. And when people have asked me, because I haven't actually done stand-up for like a long, long time. I did a couple of comparing gigs recently for Altitude Festival, but literally only because my girlfriend was already booked and to play it.
Right.
And she said to me, "Do you want to come with me?" And the promoter, who's a friend of mine, went, "Oh, I'll get you comparing a couple of the shows." I was like, all right, well, fingers crossed that goes right.
Yeah,
but
good
other
fun.
than that, literally have not done any stand-up in a very long time, like over a decade.
But you're doing theatre production. We should probably plug your show, right? So it starts on the 13th of September in, remind me of the name of the theatre? I've got it here.
Park Theatre in Finsbury Park.
There you go. And it's called It's Coming Straight For Us. Is that right?
It's headed straight towards us.
There we go.
But I'll talk about that in more detail separately to this. Which...
oh, shit. We lost Rufus. Hold on, guys. Hold on. We'll get Rufus back. The miracle of live television. Hey, mate.
There.
Yeah, I don't know. We lost you there for a sec. There we go. Yeah, sorry. You carry on. Where were you?
Oh, people ask me, do you miss doing stand-up comedy?
Yes.
And I always say, not really. I just miss comedians. Like, I think that more than any other group of people, they are my tribe, or they have been my tribe.
Have you seen that round table where Chris Rock talks to, I think it's Louis C.K. and Ricky Gervais and Seinfeld? And he says something in there about, like, when he goes to a party, he kind of like, he struggles to interact with people. But then as soon as he finds out that one person is a stand-up, he's just like, comedian, you know, like he can engage with them. And it's true. Like anyone that's listening to this that's done stand-up, whether it's like open mic level and you've stayed behind afterwards after the show's finished and you've just all had a beer and a cigarette out the front, or if you're a semi-pro or a pro, like you hang out in the green room, there's just something about it, man.
If you compare, you're there at the beginning, people come in and out, but, you know, while the first act's on, you're sat backstage chatting to the second act, chatting to the third act. And if you do weekends away, then you're all sat in the dressing room. And I cut my teeth largely working at the Comedia when Stephen Grant worried that he was just Brighton comedian Stephen Grant.
Yeah.
He said to me, do you want to take over some of the weekends for me while I try and spread my wings a bit further out? So I ended up with like a year's worth of gigs, pretty much, hanging out with some of the best comedians in the country in the dressing room.
Yeah. Yeah, and like trading ideas, like going over what happened that night.
But also like the learning the pattern, like learning because that's how you can construct that as an idea, and that's how and just, you know, I always think of Ben Norris in a funny kind of a way. He's a brilliant stand-up comedian, and you should absolutely go and watch Ben Norris on stage be a stand-up comedian. But I swear to God, I have never been in the company of anyone funnier than Ben Norris.
Yeah.
Funny as he ever was on stage. Trust me, backstage, like, you know, he was Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais all rolled into one. I mean, like...
Here's a weird question for you. Did you have a friend when you were younger who was like the funny one who didn't go into stand-up?
Yeah.
And are you still in touch with them now? Like, does it break your heart that they didn't do it?
No.
Really?
No, because I've always likened it to this. You could go to a nightclub and see somebody really dancing and you'd go, oh my God, look at them go. Aren't they brilliant? But you wouldn't then walk up to them and go, we'd love you to join the Bolshoi. You know, we run the Bolshoi Ballet and we've seen you dance here in this nightclub, and so we'd love you to join us. Because we all understand that even though that person is a great dancer, being a ballet dancer is a different thing altogether. It requires a different approach and all of that. So I actually think I don't care that my funny mate never did stand up. The one that I find harder are the stand-ups I knew on the open mic circuit who were funny, but necessarily had to alter what made them funny to try and make a living at doing stand-up.
Yeah.
Stand-up club audiences change what you do.
Right.
because I've got to be able to make a room full of stag and hen parties laugh reliably, to be able to play whole weekends in big comedy clubs, so that I can actually earn a living at doing this.
Yeah, and this is a big thing, man. Like, not many people know that. Like, because to the general public, they just think, "Oh, comedy is comedy," and yeah, like I'm sort of alluding to here. If you've got a funny friend, oh, you should be a comedian. But it's not that cut and dry. You know, there's these different shades and gradients of what stand-up is, and yeah, as you're tapping into there, a comedian who fucking crushes it at a Jongleurs on a Friday night with a 20-minute club set, making stag and hen nights laugh, is not gonna, like, if you try going on stage at a place like that and do your heady, introspective, you know, like, is it like not a punchline every 2 minutes, no crowd work, it's just stories from your childhood.
Not a punchline every 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So to be really good at that, don't get me wrong, is a real skill, and I could just reel off probably a dozen incredible club comics. But there is nobody in TV who's watching those people and going, "Oh, we've got to get them on our show." Because it's a different thing. Yeah. They would much rather see somebody who didn't really have that skill, but who was new and interesting and unlike what you've already seen, and. So, and look, nobody ever said the entertainment business was a meritocracy. No. You know, it isn't that you earn your stripes and then you get your shot. It's not that. It's the Wild West. Yeah. So the idea that there should be a way of doing it, or these people should have more opportunities, it's just not how it works.
That's really interesting, because I always used to look at stand-up like it was one of the few remaining meritocracies. Like, I know the entertainment industry, the TV industry is a different beast, or a broader beast. But I always used to look at comedy like, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter, like if we were hanging out with Dirty Dicks after the show finished, there would be like a gay guy over here, a black guy there, like an old dude over here. Like, it's just different people from different walks of life. But the funniest guy would win the clap off at the end of the night. So to me, it was like, this is, like we were saying before we started streaming, I was like, to me, this is one of the last things. You can't fake it. It's a meritocracy. It's about who's funniest. So it's interesting to hear that it's not necessarily like that once.
No, but that's it. That's the difference between comedy as a sort of pure idea, you know, and comedy as an industry.
Right.
You know, there are changing tastes, there are changing mores. I mean, it's also true of actors. It's also true, of the arts in general. Is funny enough, in the play that I'm doing at the moment, there's reference to a character who went to drama school at the same time as the character I play, and she's a black woman, and we all left drama school at the same time. And one of them goes, "Yeah, she couldn't really hack it as an actor," and one of the other characters goes, "Well, she was black and it was the 90s. She played 3 prostitutes in a row and pretty much saw the writing on the wall." Right? Yeah. And that's right. That is absolutely what it was. So who's getting the chances? Anytime I hear, people like me, including me, saying, "Oh, well, it's all right for everyone else, but what about middle-aged straight white men?" You're like, yeah, no, had a pretty good run of it as it goes. It's the fact that things are changing and that tastes change. It's like, yeah, that's how it works. That's how it's always worked. What's your...
It seems a weird argument to me, all while, like, whenever I hear people saying, like, no, there should be, this is a 98% white country, so why is there a black guy on every other advert? Like, I'm always like, why? What kind of a mind says no to a more, like, interesting palette? Do you know what I mean? That's probably a really crude way of saying it, but it's like, if you could have different cultures, languages spoken, different cuisines, different styles of music, why the fuck would you shut your door to that and go like, "Nah, I'm good with Morris dancing and Yorkshire pies, you cunt"? Like, what? Yeah. What are you doing?
But there is actually an answer to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, the answer is that we are raised in a culture that tells you this is what it is. Right? If you do this, you're doing it right. And if you don't do it like that, you're a cunt.
Right.
Right. So the notion of British exceptionalism is just written through everyone like a stick of rock. All of this Meghan Markle stuff, right, is sold to the over 50s hard.
Yeah.
Hard. Like, I think most people under 40 don't really see the big deal. But anyone over 50, they're like, yeah, but the royal family, though. Even if they hate them, in inverted commas, yeah, but the royal family, though. Yeah, but it's the Queen, isn't it? It's like, she's given her life to this country. She's like, really?
Yeah.
Meghan Markle thinks she can just turn, what? Some American, hang on, what?
Some American actress.
And it's because they were all raised by people who had lived through the war.
Yeah.
And the whole of culture, the whole of everywhere you looked was, we're the best, we're the goodies, we do it right, we're the ones. Oh, the fucking French, every punchline in every sitcom for 20 years is Johnny Foreigner, oh yeah, garlic bread, fucking, all right. The Germans have got no sense of humour.
Yeah.
It's all, the whole, it's a thing that you just do not question because it's so prevalent.
Do you
this
sense
idea that we're the best? Deep down, everyone knows that we're the best. Empire. When you call people on empire, they go, "Oh yeah, a bit shaky." But there's a thing underneath that. They go, "Yeah, but it was still the right thing, though, wasn't it? Because we sort of civilized everyone and we helped because." All right, maybe there were a few guns fired, or maybe not ideal, but deep down, the world's better off because we are the best. So the more of us that was in the world, the better off everyone was.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people from from that generation, even now, like last year, so pretty fucking recent, where they say stuff like, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, this country X or country Y. I mean, it was running pretty well when we were still running it, and that, then we gave it back to them, and then look, and it's just like, have you got any fucking idea what you're talking about? Really? Yeah. Like,
oh mate, I mean, that is the horror of it, is that like we literally have a government in power that is currently seeking. I mean, and what's her chops? Who's running for London Mayor?
Yeah.
She's recently come out backing this campaign that's like no regrets or no, like no apology.
Yeah, Suella Braverman was saying something similar like a couple of months ago at the National Conservatism Conference. She was like up there behind a podium, white people have nothing to feel guilty about. And I was doing a thing about it at the time. I was just like, nobody's saying like, oh, you're white, so you should feel you should feel guilty about it. People aren't. It's about institutional racism. It's about recognizing history. It's about making amends and just acknowledging the role that we played. It's not like, why are you trying to turn this into something that it isn't?
Yeah.
Infuriating.
Anyone saying that country ran better when we ran it, it's like, what? Before we got there, shot all the people in charge, took everything of any value, set up companies that were then just going to rinse them of their national resources.
Yeah.
And then we left them. And ever since then, they just haven't been able to get their shit together.
Yeah. That country was running so much better. For who?
Right. and the real, the grey cloud that you walk under from that point onwards is you walk around Liverpool or Bath or Bristol, and you go, wow, isn't it gorgeous? All these lovely open Georgian piazzas and all sorts. The moment you realise where the money came to build any of that, you're like,
oh yeah,
oh fuck.
Or you can just walk around London. Like, I used to live in East India Quay with no fucking knowledge of like the background of the East India Company. I was just like, oh, that's a weird name for a fire. Yeah, I guess that's what they called it, and you just and I'm I'm somewhat naive or ignorant to this, but I'm positive that there are still street names in London that are named after like slavers. And shit, right. Just like in Bristol, there was the fucking statue, and nobody thought that was an issue. That's the fucking wild thing about it. Is it's just like, yeah, we've had multiple complaints. We've had all these people saying they think that it's hugely problematic, and it's quite upsetting to them with their heritage, and they don't want. We're just gonna fob them all. Put it up there, polish it, make it look even better.
Yeah. It is just jaw dropping. So
do you sense that this sort of like the British exceptionalism stuff is, because I agree, I think it does run through not even a subset of the population, but like an entire generation and some of the next generation, depending on how worldly they are and feel. However, do you sense that the British exceptionalism stuff is kind of at its end game now? Like we're kind of doing Brexit at the moment. The idea was, oh, well, nothing will actually get that bad here because this is Britain, and stuff like that doesn't happen in Britain because we used to run the bloody world, you know. Do you think that now when things do get actually really fucking bad, that finally that shit might be put to bed?
I think that it makes the lie harder to believe.
I suppose drinking the Kool-Aid and sort of sticking at it like is not something I have an awful amount of hope for people kind of departing from. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, wasn't it? There was an article in the Telegraph that went viral in the last couple of weeks where, you know, exactly the paper that has been going, Brexit, hard exit, you know, lower the taxes, you know, like in that paper, a guy wrote an op-ed piece that was, if you're under 20, you should probably think about leaving the country.
Oh yeah, and that's not even an isolated like piece. There's been about 3 or 4 of those now. I think there's one in the Telegraph. I've seen one in the Mail, and yeah, and I agree with them because it's like here's where my head is at, Rufus, and you can tell me if you broadly agree with this or not.
I've got a feeling I probably will.
Yeah. But I feel like we're so deep in the hole now. So we left the single market. We're sort of flatlining. You know, they'll cling on to a 0.2% growth here and there, what they can. But mostly we're just, you know, we're not growing. And we desperately need money for public services, but there is none. Because when they borrow the money, it's now at such a high interest rate, thanks largely to Truss and Kwarteng. They can't borrow more money. They can't magic more money because that would destabilize the currency. If they make the pound weaker, again, that means imports come in, inflation goes up. Mm-hmm. So they can't magic money. They can't get growth without joining the single market, which they won't do because that would be hugely embarrassing for them. They've basically got no way of creating more growth to pay for the public services and the running of the country that we need. Meanwhile, all of your tax money, my tax money, everyone's tax money, most of it just goes on servicing this debt. So we just keep on circling this drain. And as far as I can see, there's not really any way out of that. So I'm like, we are actually quasi fucked. And the only way out of it really is that you emigrate at this stage.
Yeah. But here's the other, I mean, like the meta on that, I think, is when people talk about growth, right? There's only 2 things in the economy: goods and services.
Yeah.
Right? So anytime you're talking about growth, you are either talking about making more shit or doing more shit.
Yeah.
Making more shit always involves cutting something down or ripping it out of the ground.
Yeah. Resources.
So, or having more people who require more resources to provide more services. Well, those services all require things. So you are still ultimately trying to then have to make more things that you've got to either chop down or rip out of the ground. For as long as we, as a species, have our society built around the premise of pull a thing out of the ground or chop it down, we're fucked.
Yeah.
We are literally just, we are the parasite that is just, you know, the mosquito is going to, you know, reach saturation point and fly off and the host will die.
Yeah.
Until we have, like, I mean, you know, we talk about systematic racism or systematic prejudice or, you know, systems in that way. The whole concept of how an economy works and that one's economy requires growth. We have to change that. Yeah. The only reason that we've got an economy theoretically is that how do we organize ourselves to bring about as wide a benefit as possible to as many people as possible? Well, here we are in late stage capitalism where even the people at the very, very top who are doing very, very well out of it, thank you very much, even they are going to be living on a piece of burnt coal. Yeah. So either we've actually got to genuinely wake up to that fact and have a very, very almost like surreal reimagining. Like, do you know the thing about what's it called? Capitalist realism.
No, not familiar.
I'm sure it's called capitalist realism. It might be worth Googling, but it's this. Essentially, it is easier for everyone to imagine the end of the earth than it is to imagine the end of capitalism.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Everybody just accepts, yeah, but that is what it is. This is how it is.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Communism? No, mate. I mean, we've shown it doesn't work. Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Just have a barter system? No, everyone knows that's not how it's going to work.
I always look at it like, if you imagine capitalism as rooted entirely within the paradigm of fossil fuel extraction and consumption, which is effectively what it is. Like, everything comes back to being able to power a drill, methods of like fracturing rock to get the gas out, like whatever it is, whatever the product is, that it's always based on that. So if you assume that oil is probably going to run out in the next like 20 years, 50 years max, I don't know if it's going to be like, people won't have to reimagine this stuff. Like, things are gonna like, and I'm sort of alluding here to the fact that we kind of have to wind down civilization quite substantially, and a lot of people might be getting some mental image of like, well, yeah, I'll just live in a treehouse, or I'll just build myself a little hut or anything. And I'm always very quick to point out that no, things like you might get to that, but things are gonna get really fucking deathy before that. Like, people will break into your fucking house and bludgeon you for a can of beans before you get
There is an argument, and a pretty good argument, that the Syrian refugee crisis is an environmental crisis, right? There are increasing sections of the world that cannot produce the food so then it becomes a war for resources, or rather it becomes poverty of resources. What happens to people who can't get the resources? They start shifting and moving elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Ukraine. Like, I mean, people at the beginning of the invasion into Ukraine, people were like, why are we saying this is like, why are we accepting the narrative that this is about Russia invading to liberate Ukraine from Nazis? There's that narrative. And then there's the other one that's like, we're the goodies, right? We'll fight back against Putin because Putin's gone mad. And he's just a crazy lunatic, and we're the goodies. This is basically like Hitler 2.0, so we're going to go in there. I'm like, why are we subscribing to these two very simplistic ideas? Like, this is about energy, man. This is about natural resources. Ukraine has a lot of natural gas. It was about to sign a deal with the EU, which would have competed with Russia. That's why Putin has gone into Ukraine. Like, why? Who's believing this fairy story?
Right.
But
But you point a world leader who's going to go, guys, gas and oil. No, we've got solar panels now, so come on.
That's the only thing I can sort of channel to make sense of it, is that it is simply too terrifying for the general public to understand and accept and deal with, for them to know how fucked we are with the expiration of oil and oil reserves. I think if everyone out there knew how close we are to, like, it's been called peak oil and a few other terms. If everyone knew how close we are to the winding down of civilization as they know it, I truly believe, like, there would be civil unrest. People would not be able to handle it. There'd be looting, murdering, scavenging for resources.
Yeah. There are two theories on this. Sorry, that's not necessarily quite how I'm putting that. But the model is basically, if there isn't food in the supermarkets for 3 days, this entire country will burn down.
Yeah.
Like, that's you saw how fucking mental people went over a lack of toilet paper. Do you know, in most countries in the world, when you've taken a shit, you wash your asshole.
Yeah.
But in this country, it was the idea that you wouldn't be able to use a piece of disposable tree to clean your ring piece, sent people into a sort of unfathomable spiral. Well, you think how that's going to be when you can't get a potato?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so that's the thing that the people at the top actually do know and have respect for, is there is a base level of this is what we have to provide. And as long as we're providing that, most people will willingly accept whatever lie you tell them. What, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Well, it seems a bit off, but all right. Well, I mean, we're eating and it's warm. Like, okay.
Mm.
But once those things start to go,
Yeah.
that's when it really kicks off.
Well, this is why.
Obviously, Aid, sorry, I was going to tell
Yeah.
you one other thing, because this is the thing that the conversation we've had always makes me think of. In my lifetime, there's been one man who, whatever he has ever said, I've listened to and thought, that's right, that is wise, that is right. And it's Noam Chomsky, right? And Noam Chomsky was being interviewed about the rise of the Republican Party and the rise of sort of authoritarian fascism within the Republican Party,
Right, like Trumpism.
The monstering of Jeremy Corbyn and his politics. And Chomsky's a Jewish person. He was saying, like, I don't see where this whole anti-Semitism thing, really. I see why he's being painted as that, and I can see that he could have dealt with things in a different way. But like calling this guy who has spent a lifetime at anti-racism rallies, like he's like, okay, there may be problems. I mean, this is what Noam Chomsky said. I'm sort of running cover here for my point of view. But like, it was him saying that, right? So he outlined all of these things, like the rise of authoritarianism, corporatism, the environmental catastrophe. And at the end of this interview, the interviewer said to him, well, no, I think anyone listening to this will have been given some fairly weighty food for thought. And may find themselves asking, well, feeling the way you do, knowing what you know, what is it that provides you comfort?
Yeah.
And Noam Chomsky, without dropping a beat, still looking this guy dead in the eye, goes, that I'll be dead soon.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, one of my last questions to you is going to be like, do you have much? Like, my hope is dead on the floor, Rufus. I'm like, we're so fucked. Are you in any way sort of hopeful or optimistic for the future?
No.
But okay, good. You've never been more relatable to me, so that's.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
No, because the thing is, I think there are some solutions, but we're just so far away from being able to implement them. Like, look at the people we've got in charge.
Yeah.
At the point where we know the planet is on fire, the bloke in number 10 is going, good news, we're opening up new gas and oil fields.
Yeah. Or he's just like, I know everyone was talking about Grant Shapps yesterday, but a thing that got missed was that the person they backfilled his old role with, he was energy secretary, energy and net zero, right? And the person they put into that role so he could move into defense is she's voted consistently against like net zero policies and, climate change addressing policies. So it's just like, are they even taking this shit seriously? Doesn't seem like it.
No, they absolutely are not. And it is, because as you've just said, right, we're talking about like it really will all come crashing down in 20 years, 30 years. Well, they're all thinking, great, well, I'll be, all of the backers, all the people either think that they're going to live in subterranean bunkers in New Zealand that they can pay for with their multi-millions, or that they'll be dead. So what do they care? They would rather make hay while they're alive than worry about how awful it's going to be after they're dead.
Maybe they should. My plan, I don't know what your plan is, but I've decided to build a cult because I'm thinking like in the post-apocalyptic world, you need a tribe, right? You need somebody like people to rally around you, strength in numbers, all of that. So I'm building a cult on Patreon. Here's my plug. So I'm 23 deep at the moment. And that's, if anyone's watching this and they are not yet on the Patreon, jump on patreon.com/Aid Thompson. There we go. My one plug.
I think we might be able to string it out for like 100 years if you were able to sort of build a defendable commune on a Hebridean island.
Yeah.
You've got to go somewhere that's fucking cold now.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So it heats up and then...
So that while everything else is warming up, it's bare. Like, what you're really trying to circumvent is two things. One, you got to go somewhere where there's actually usable soil still. Yeah. Because that's really a problem. Like, literal soil is going to run out in the next 15 years based on current modern agricultural methods.
Okay.
So you need to be somewhere there. You need to be somewhere not currently attached to the mainland, because anyone who can drive to you will just murder you for your crops. So you need to, you need that.
I'm just going to say this now. You're the most on-brand guest I think I've ever had on this.
Oh, good. Well, I'm delighted to be here.
It's like bringing your light to our darkness, Rufus.
Well, I can offer some light, but the final part of that is that at the point the next wars are fought, and they're fought with nuclear weapons, I think there's only so many countries that get involved before you basically, regardless of nuclear fallout, elicit nuclear winter, which is that the sky turns black, no sunlight gets through, and everything on Earth dies anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever, just quickly, because I know you've got to jet off in a second, but do you ever sort of try to impart this wisdom to your girlfriend?
Interesting. Well, because I was going to say there is some light in all of this.
Okay. Which
is simply that any story worth telling has an end. Right? Like, that's the thing. Like, philosophically, that's the place that you've got to get to. Is things without an end don't have any meaning.
Yeah.
So, understanding that we are so past saving then actually allows you to think, oh, right. Oh, there really is just this.
Yeah.
It really is just this. And at that point, you get to go out and smash yourself to pieces and go dancing and see comedy. And because none of it matters. There is no saving it. There is no plan for the future. Who gives a fuck what the Sun writes about me? Who gives a fuck what the Daily Mail writes about me? They are all cunts of the highest order. They are so obviously in the pay of the corporate powers that are lying to everyone. But the moment that you realise just how wide-ranging that lie is, your only choice is to stop worrying about it and have a fucking good time.
Yeah. Oh, amen to that. I mean, it's the only reason I ask is like, so I once went out on a drive with my girlfriend and she was talking about something or other, and maybe we talk about a house that we were thinking we might buy or something. I don't know. We're planning for the future in this car ride, and the kids are in the back, and I started basically telling her like what my thoughts for the future were. And bear in mind, she's thinking, we got these 2 kids and we're going to send them to school, and, then maybe we could do this and we could invest in this, like, a little thing here. And she's planning for the future. She's excited about it. And I'm like, in the next 10, 15 years, oil is going to run out and civilization as we know it is going to fucking die. And the best hope that we have is buying a house in the middle of a field, because if they can break into somebody's house down their own road, they'll break into that, but they won't come into the middle of it. And I'm sort of like just regaling her with my utter despair at the state of the. And by the time we got back into our driveway, she had a face like a smacked up, like I had buzzkilled the entire conversation. I was just curious, like, if you talk, like, do you talk to your girlfriend about this stuff? And is she on a similar sort of wavelength, or is she like, actually, Rufus is having a weird one, I'll just leave him to it? Or
I think it's, with us, it's just more that we accept that it's like, we're on the Titanic, we've hit the iceberg, the alarm's going off.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at her. I mean, look, this is the point, right? She's my girlfriend, not my wife. My wife and I are getting a divorce.
Right.
So that's been in the making for a number of years. She's my girlfriend. So we both feel at that point that we're the 2 kids sat at the bar going, so this thing's going under, is it? Yeah, this thing's going under. And everyone's going to die, are they? Yeah, everyone's going to die. Want to fuck?
It's a fantastic note to leave it on. Thank you so much, Rufus Hound. Guys, make sure you give him a follow on Twitter if you're not already.
No, don't follow me on Twitter. Twitter's a dying thing.
Yeah.
Fuck Twitter.
All right.
Fuck all it. Do come and see an amazing play. It was written by Aid Edmondson and Nigel Planer, who fucking reinvented comedy and a national sense of humour. In Aid's case, to my imagining, twice. It is ultimately, not directly, but in some respects, talking about many of the themes that we've touched on. It's me. It's a new actor called Nenda Neururer that people won't know, but she's fucking phenomenal. And Sam West, who anybody who's ever heard of actors should probably know, comes from a dynasty that is unparalleled, and is an unbelievable actor in his own right, lauded and all sorts. We're only on for 5 weeks. It's in Finsbury Park. And if you want something that will absolutely, you'll laugh your socks off, but at the end of it, also walk out thinking, holy shit, that is food for thought, then come and see us, because I think it might be the best thing I've ever done.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And it's at the Park Theatre, right?
Park Theatre, Finsbury Park.
Cool. And it starts on September the 13th, and it's called It's Headed Straight Towards Us. So go and check that out. Guys, quick nod to the Patreons. Shout out to my God tier followers. It's Bowman, Kai, Chris, David, Martin, Mojo Sabian, Peter Del Monte, whose name I love and cannot say seriously, Pingu, Silent, Stuart, T-Rex, Aaron, Alex, Jeff, Ned, Sarah, Simon, Ailsa, Chris, Fat Shirley, Malcolm, Rodri, and Kerry. Thank you so much, guys, for your continued support of the show and everything else that I'm doing. If you are keen on the show, if you are enjoying it, do jump onto patreon.com/Aid Thompson. There's a bunch of benefits on there. You get access to the Discord chat. You get episodes of the podcast 2 days ahead of everyone else. You get first look at the live tickets or live show tickets. Next show is the 28th of September. And after that, the 10th of November. That's it from me. Once again, thanks to Rufus Hound for joining me tonight. I'll be back next Wednesday with a solo show. Until next time, keep it #Booge, strictly #Bimpfluencer, and I'm out this motherfucker.